Hello, I'm so glad you're here. My name is Shannon, and in this training series, what we're going to talk about is how to have conversations that are more effective and successful. So, I'll do a quick introduction. Like I said, my name is Shannon. I am a marriage and family therapist and a certified coach. I'm also someone who grew up in a first responder family. And my company, Stack of Stones, is all about making guardian work more sustainable. And what I mean by that is you're going to hear me use the word guardian. That's just the word I use to wrap around anyone who works as first responder, healthcare, death care, social services. If your job is to help people on the front lines who are experiencing distress, it comes with some stuff. It comes with some weight on your mental health and your relationship health. So, the entire mission of my company is to help with that, generally through things like really practical, tactical trainings and then therapy and coaching. I'm also going to add this other little tidbit to this training. I don't usually talk about this in my intro, but I think it could be helpful here. So, raised in a first responder family, and my parents just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. And I am about to celebrate my 25th wedding anniversary. And I don't say that as a flex. I don't say that to be like, oh my gosh, look at how cool we are. We do it all right. No, because 50 years and 25 years means a lot of time to get it wrong and practice and relearn and find different ways to do it right. So, the things I'm going to talk about in this particular training, yes, some of it comes from research and education. A lot of it comes from sitting in session with couples who are struggling. And then a lot of it comes from my own personal experience. So all that's going to be mixed into this, okay? So let's talk about where we're going to go in this training series. So there's 2 introductory videos. This is the first one, and we're going to start with talking about some like foundational ground rules and some concepts. And then I'm going to give you your first practice conversation to have. Okay, this is the first video. The second video is going to be something that you watch alone on your own. And I'm going to help you think about the reflexes and the reactions you have in the midst of a conversation. I'll explain more what that means later. And then the third, fourth, and fifth videos are just more practice conversations. So this first one's going to be the longest because it's got this introductory piece. But the rest of the videos should all be about 10 minutes. And I want you to only have these conversations for 10 to 15 minutes. This is not designed to guide you through some very long, arduous conversations. This is designed to be quick, give you some very specific skills to practice, and help with bringing the two of you together. So what's the goal? What's the plan? Why are we here? You will hopefully find that in every single training I do, my plan is to give you a goal and some very specific steps to get to that goal. Today's goal, please don't be intimidated by these fancy graphics, is understanding. I want to help you learn how to understand your significant other and how to have a conversation that helps you understand each other. So, unfortunately, the goal is not fixing. And I know that that can feel really frustrating, especially as you work as a guardian, because literally your job is to fix it. Your job is to show up, wee woo, wee woo, find the problem, fix the problem, then go back home. What I find though is that a lot of times we're fixing too fast. You are showing up and fixing a problem that you don't understand, and therefore it's not working. If you show up on a scene and someone is laying on the ground, do you immediately start compressions? No, you assess. So what I'm going to teach you is how to assess in the midst of your conversations. And the example I'm going to want you to use is blindfolded pickleball. Because what I see in my office a lot, and it's easier for me as a third party to watch it, right? I do this in my own relationships too. But as a third party, I can watch it happen. And what I'm seeing is blindfolded pickleball where each partner is trying really hard. They are both engaged. They both care about their significant other and they are trying, but they're blindfolded and whacking pickleballs everywhere. And none of them are landing where they intend because they don't have the skill of understanding and they're getting too caught up in the idea of trying to fix or the idea of trying to win. We'll talk about that later. Okay. So the goal is to understand each other. And what I want you to think about is how do we strengthen a muscle? We strain it, right? If you are looking to get stronger, you need to strain that muscle. And in order to strengthen your communication muscles, we're going to have to strain them. This may not be comfortable. And I'm sorry, but it is what it is. If you are not used to having honest, straightforward conversations with each other, it may not be comfortable to do so. But in order to get stronger, we have to push through that discomfort. And here's what I'll say. As someone who spends a lot of time with struggling couples, do it now because the discomfort's either going to come proactively or it's going to come in the end. So many of the clients who come into my office say, I wish I had done this earlier. And it's because if we're proactive and if we push through on the end, we're able to avoid a lot of pain. Okay, so even though it may be frustrating to listen to me yap at you and to sit down and do this, it's worth it. Okay. And with that being said, if you are finding yourselves having these conversations and you can't do it without major explosive conflict, wrap in a professional. Okay, this is meant to help you strain and strengthen muscles. It is not meant to fix something that is broken. So if things are really, really bad, pull in a professional. That's what we do. We help with this. Okay, so our goal is to understand and to reduce the blindfolded pickleballs flying around. I want to give you a couple quick notes on pacing and how we're going to actually do this. So I'm going to slow you way down and it's going to be annoying. Okay, I'm sorry. I recognize that what's going to happen in the rest of this video might be obnoxious and you might want to flick me in my forehead. But here's the thing, we've got to slow down the pacing in order to build the skills. If you think back to anything else you learned in your job, even something as simple as putting on a duty belt or turnouts, starting an IV, you started slow and steady. You ran the steps in your mind. Now it's probably second nature. You think nothing of it, but you had to start slow. It's going to be the same. So I'm going to make you pause and be really stilted in these conversations. It's going to feel awkward. That's part of it, and I apologize. One of the main reasons I'm slowing you down is to give you time to recognize reflexes. Reflexes are a part of conversation, and depending on what we've been taught and how we've historically interacted, your reflexes may or may not be helpful. So we're going to slow the conversation down, and the entire second video is helping you learn how to recognize them, so then we can learn to play a pickleball game that actually has some effective back and forth. Just to give you an idea what I mean by reflexes, I like to use the example of station voice. Okay, so if you work in a first responder role, you communicate a certain way at work, and you need to. You are direct. There's not a lot of fluff and extra description. You are saying exactly what needs to happen, and depending on your role, you are often saying it with an element of maybe authority or command, which is great. That is great at work, not great at home, not great with your significant other or your family, I promise. And if you're like, I don't do that, I want you to slowly pivot your head to the side and look at your significant other. And if they're going like this, yeah, you do. It's a reflex. You may not even notice. Think about how much you have trained your station voice, right? How much you train to communicate on the radio appropriately, how much you train to give the appropriate details that will help your colleagues know exactly what to do. You may not have trained the same way at home, so it makes sense that you react and you have a reflex back to station voice, but it is inappropriate in this context, okay? So that's just one example, and when I talk about reflexes, I want you to kind of have that in mind. Reflexes don't mean you're a bad person or you're not trying hard. It just means there may be something that is happening you don't notice. Okay, and then my final thing is I want you to think about distractions and position. So again, these conversations are meant to be 10 to 15 minutes. So reduce distractions as much as you can, phones away if you can, kids in front of a snack and a screen, whatever you need to do, it's only 10 to 15 minutes. And I want you to focus on each other entirely. And in that, I want you to think about the position of your bodies. So if I am working with a couple and we're walking through a fight that happened, what I do is I often work it backwards to kind of figure out where we can make different choices. I very often I very often find that the initial position is a problem. So one partner's on their screen, the other one's watching TV. One partner's headed out the door, the other one's trying to get shoes on a toddler, right? Their positions are not in line. They're facing different directions and those pickleballs are flying. So I either want you to sit down and look at each other and have a conversation where you are looking at each other and talking to each other. Or for a lot of guardians, your system doesn't do that very well, whether it's ADHD or just an intensity thing. You do better, you listen better when you're moving. And if that's the case, no problem. That is totally fine. But I want you to think about moving in the same direction. So go for a walk, go for a drive, something where the two of you are in movement, but you are aligned in that movement. Okay, so get that set up and then we're going to jump into the actual conversation. Okay, it's time. We're actually going to do the thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through a conversation and I'm going to give you instruction, have you pause the video, follow the instructions, and then unpause and get the next set of instructions. It is really important that you don't just run off into a conversation without getting the next set of instructions. Okay, we got to keep those pickleballs reined in. So I'm going to give you the question. I don't want you to answer it yet. I'm just going to give it to you and then I'm going to give you 2 assignments. So the question for today is, what were the highs and the lows of a time period? Okay, and I'll explain more about this. But what I want you to do is I want you to decide 2 things. Set up my fancy visual aids. First of all, who's going to be partner 1 and who's going to be partner 2? It doesn't matter. There is 0. It's just one of you is going to go first, and we're going to be very deliberate in what each partner says. So choose who's 1 and 2. And then the second piece is choose your time period. So I kept this vague on purpose because I don't know your situation. So when you talk about highs and lows, do you want to talk about yesterday? Or sometimes yesterday doesn't have enough information. So you could talk about last week. Or if you, depending on your role and depending on the schedule you have, maybe you want to talk about the last shift set. Whatever makes sense to you, I want you to pause the video, just decide these two things, and then come back. Don't answer the question. Okay, so we have partner one and partner two assigned. We're going to answer this question in a second, partner one, but I want to give you some instruction. So overall, this is a great question for increasing connection between each other all the time. So this question directly fights against a cancer that I find in couples, which is the word fine. That word will stab your relationship to death. And it's because it's a useless word. It's like taking the pickleballs and throwing them over your shoulder. How's your shift? It was fine. How's your day? It was fine. How are you? It was fine. It gives zero information and creates distance between the two of you. But I also find that some folks just have trouble knowing what to share, knowing what's interesting. Especially if you like to leave work at work, you don't want to talk about your shift. But in order to maintain communication, it's important you share something. It doesn't mean you share the nitty-gritty, gnarly details. I actually have a whole training on how to figure out how much to share. That's on my site. But instead, you do want to give your significant other some idea of the highs and lows. Okay, so that's the basis of this. So partner one, as you answer this question, I want you to answer for like 2 to 3 minutes. This isn't a time to like unload elaborate stories or a big long conversation. You are just practicing throwing a couple pickleballs over the fence and providing some information. Okay, so highs and lows, 2 to 3 minutes. And as you share, I want you to keep something in mind. You are sharing about the highs and lows of your experience. This is a time to share about your emotions and what you experience. This is not a time to point fingers. Okay, finger guns in the holster. Because what I find sometimes is like, well, my low is when you showed up and you didn't help with anything around the house. That does not help. It could be your low, but I want you to think about how you share. My low is I felt really overwhelmed by the kids in the house. And when you got home, I felt like I couldn't connect with you about it. Okay, that is about your experience, but it is not about pointing fingers. Okay, so partner one, you're going to share. Partner two, nothing. I want you to be completely silent. I don't want you to say anything. After you do this part, unpause the video and I'll help you know how to respond. Okay, here's your question. Okay, so partner one, you have shared. Partner two, I'm going to give you some guidance in how to respond. And because Guardians love acronyms, I've built one for you. The ASS model of responding. And yes, I do recognize that now I'm going to do this training with the word ASS written above my head, but that's how dedicated I am to this work. So today in your response, I'm only going to teach you the first two letters, the A and the S. The second S's will come in the second video, okay? When it comes to responding to your partner, I'm going to ask you to do something that's going to feel really stilted and awkward. And that's because it's probably not the way you're used to responding. It's going to feel silly. But if, like, let's say starting IVs is part of your job, think about the first few times you did it, right? You're like, oh, trying not to mess it up. And now you can probably do it in the back of a moving vehicle with lights, sirens, screaming, all the things. I'm going to ask you to do it in a stilted, shaky way so that eventually this type of response becomes second nature. And this type of response is research-backed and shown to actually help. Okay? So, A stands for acknowledge. You are going to acknowledge the emotions that your significant other is feeling. Sorry, if you just saw me panic, it's because I just did this whole segment without hitting record, and I thought I did it again. I'm a professional. Okay. A stands for acknowledge. So you're just saying, oh my gosh, that sounds like it was really overwhelming when you had back-to-back calls and you never got a moment to sit and eat. Oh, that sounds so stressful because the kids just would not stop fighting with each other. Or, oh, that sounds like it was a great time with your mom. You are just acknowledging the emotion that your partner has shared. And then you're summarizing it. Acknowledge and summarize. And this doesn't have to be a super detailed word for word. You're essentially just showing like, hey, I heard you. I listened to you. The second part of a summary that can be really helpful is sometimes we get it wrong. So when I'm watching those blindfolded pickleball matches in my office, a lot of times one partner says something, I ask the other partner to summarize it, and it's not even close. For the sake of this video, if it's wrong, I don't want you guys to fix it. Okay, that I feel like that is going to get us off track. So partner one, if you feel like partner two did not get it, I'm really sorry, and let's just let that be for now. I will address it later in other trainings, but for now, we're just going to let it float away. Okay, do your response and then come back. Okay, How'd that go? Take a second and just notice. What are you noticing in your body? We're going to talk a lot more about this in the second video. But what I want you to think about is, how did that go? And then don't talk, don't tell each other, don't say anything, just a quick little note to self. And then I want you to switch. Partner two, you answer the same question. What were the highs and lows of this last time period? I want you to do the same, 2 to 3 minutes. Blame guns in your holsters. You're simply sharing your experience. And then partner two, go ahead and respond using our S model. Okay, you did it. That's your first practice conversation. So the first thing I want you to do is I just want you to take a second and take a little mental note. What are you noticing about yourself? Not your partner, yourself. What do you notice about how you feel in your body? What do you notice about, like, what do you want to respond? We're going to stop this conversation now. Okay. So I don't want you to continue this conversation after the video. I want you to stop and go on to the second video. That's because there's probably reflexes coming up, and we don't want to just keep reiterating the same reflex. We want to go assess them and address them. Okay. So the next video is for you both to listen to on your own. I want you to separate, go your separate ways and go listen. You can listen now immediately if you want to, or you can listen later. It doesn't matter, but I do want you to listen. This is a 2-part training. And if you only do the first part, you're not going to get all the way to where we need to go. Okay. So I'll see you in the next one.